Oh, please tell me we've had a spew. Hey, yo, and welcome to the AWO Journeymen Podcast. Hey, I'm back, guys, and we are back after a week break. If the AFL is going to have a break, we may as well. I am JD, the Blues fan who attended his first final in 10 years on Friday night. Had a very enjoyable time. Nate is off this week, enjoying some soccer finals. Get that dough, boy. And joining me is Maso, the Freo fan who, I think might want to stab Colin Young in the neck about now. Yeah. How you doing, Maso?
Well, as you can see from my jersey, I have officially moved on to the next sport for the year.
See, I got a few weeks.
Yeah. I will get into it later, but yeah, I'm kind of already over it, to be honest.
We'll get into a little bit of finals talk, but boy, let's talk some footy, which we'll get straight into Thursday night football, which a bit of a contentious one to have Thursday night football in finals. I'm not sure how everyone feels about it because, especially at 7:20, you got to get to the game pretty quick straight after work. So it's a bit of an interesting one, but nonetheless, they love to do it on the first week of finals. And it's mainly a spot for the prelim anyway. But we got 9-6 plays 7-11. So 60 to 53. So Collingwood by 7 points. The boys well and truly got it done for people like Nate. It was a best way to describe it. They found their mojo again.
They hit stride at the right time, didn't they?
Oh, big time. Absolutely found their stride and absolutely dominated in all aspects that they have, did in that early part of the year. They were so accurate. They went in, I think, about 30 inside 50, 30 less times than the Melbourne Football Club, but were just so efficient inside 50. Led by players like Bobby Hill. And, players like McStay, who had an absolute night out as well. So they had some key players who needed to step up in finals do just that. Hill and McStay in the forward line were great. You also had players like Sidebottom and Hoskin Elliott. So some of their older statesmen stepping up. Chris Mitchell, he played a very crucial role, I felt, in this game as well. But you had Dizzy Quaynor as well, who had another great night. Him and Markov off the half back line are just really, really good options for Collingwood. And that sort of, all the players that they needed to step up in finals absolutely did, and had a very contentious decision during the week as well to drop Johnny Noble. So players are on notice for their final spots. So
I think that was a height scrutiny, to be honest.
You reckon there was a little bit into? You reckon he could just slot straight back in, or?
No, I think that was literally because he was short for who Melbourne was bringing in, so they went with the taller option in Markov. Well, that's what the rumor mill was, and it worked out for him. He's still got pace for a taller body. He's been training hard to chase after Sonic, so you would expect that from him. But they were amazing. I feel like the stats with like the more inside 50s doesn't really tell the tale.
It doesn't.
They were bung kicks into the forward line. They would just chuck them on your boot, hope it sticks.
Went back to that Melbourne, those Melbourne issues that they were having. Actually, they've been having it all year. Again, this is one issue that feels like they cannot work out is their forward line. Looked like Van Rooyen was going to be the option for that, and then he's now looking down the barrel of a week suspension as well. So their forward line structure is going to be thrown even more into disarray this week. So they got a potentially underdone Ben Brown to come back in. So potentially we could have on Friday night with Carlton and Melbourne, two teams who need to bring in completely underdone forwards. So that being Silvani and Ben Brown, because both teams need a little bit more tall timber in their forward line to combat the defenders because both teams' defenses are very fit and healthy at the moment.
And so run me through it again. I'm dumb. So who versus who now?
So all right, so we'll go through this as well. So this game meant that Collingwood are now through to a preliminary final. So we'll host the winner of GWS and Port Adelaide at the MCG. And then we have Melbourne versus Carlton, and winner will face Brisbane Lions at the Gabba.
Oh,
So Melbourne it was really crucial for Melbourne to win that first final to get that preliminary final. But yeah, Collingwood way too strong. So they're now, staring down the barrel of a grand final, Collingwood, and Melbourne could be staring down the barrel of straight sets. If you put Petty and Melksham back into that side for
Brayshaw
and Brayshaw as well, because that's another thing we have to quickly discuss was, but you put you put Melksham and Petty back into that side, and that's into that forward line. It gives it that little bit more structure, and potentially they do actually beat Collingwood based on, they would have potentially, because they had so many more scoring shots and more shots on goal. More inside 50s as well. At the end of the day, they really could have taken more opportunities if they had those two dudes there, but you got to play with what you got, and they're, like you said, injuries at the worst time of the year, and it's cost them a final, and potentially losing another key forward in Van Rooyen is going to cost them, but could potentially cost them another final. So it's their forward line structure's in disarray, their midfield's in good stead, and their defense is in good stead. It's a very hard hard to be on those other lines when you're staring down at your forward line and they just can't fire a shot realistically. So Collingwood way too strong, but quickly want to bring up the Maynard incident. I've watched it about 100 times because I just wanted to, realistically, you watch any footy show and they've played it so often. Very early on in the game, I should say. And he's gone to smother the ball, Maynard. He's leapt off his feet and come down onto Brayshaw and knocked him out. So a bit of a contentious one for a lot of people. There's two sides of the argument you have here. You've got people who say it's a football mistake, he's got to get off. And then you just got people who pretty much are like, he had so many other options that he could have taken, he should be suspended. After watching it a lot, I do think the one option, the one thing that I reckon will catch him out from the AFL will be why he leapt. Because he could have probably had the option to not leave his feet. And that's where it becomes careless, high, and depends if they throw reckless in there as well. There's a few things that could be graded into this.
Was he actually close at all to smothering the ball?
He was, I guess. Like he had to leap to smother it, but there was, it's probably one of those ones where that's going to be their argument is he didn't need to leap. That's potentially where it's going to fall down to, is that's where it becomes careless because he's in the air. So potentially he's been sent straight to the tribunal. So he's potentially staring down the barrel of a massive suspension that could see him out for the grand final. I personally think he should get off and will get off. So I reckon he'll get the 3 weeks. We go to the appeals board. He gets off. It's been the trend of the AFL for the whole year.
Yeah, it's finals as well, so it'll be less.
Like, it doesn't deserve a week. Probably a week, especially with the Van Rooyen incident, the Martin incident. And those not resulting in concussions and both those players playing out the game. It's probably one of those ones where he's going to get a week and, it's going to suck because he's going to potentially, miss out on a prelim. And that's just, we never want to see players miss out on games through suspension at all.
Goodness.
But you got Maynard and Van Rooyen staring down the barrel of suspensions, likely both to be fought and see what the outcomes will be. But we'll move on to Friday night football, which I attended, which is Carlton playing Sydney. So we got 11-8, 74, playing 9-14, 68. So Carlton by 6 points. In the scare of a lifetime, mate. The scare of a lifetime. This game looked like it was done and dusted at halftime. You kept calling it. I said no, because I know this football club. I knew they would get scared. I knew they'd get shaky. And that's the best way to describe it. They got absolutely rocked in this second half. They got shaked. They were shaking in their boots late in the game. But they stuck through it. And they stuck fat. And they managed to pull out their first finals win in 10 years. In their first finals appearance in 10 years. So what a night as a Carlton fan. But how did you view this game as a neutral?
Oh, it was a rough watch for me in terms of officiating. It was rough. This one was the nail in the coffin for me in terms of officiating. It was a bad one. It wasn't just the fact that it was bad. It would go either way when it would just F the teams at times in the game and just destroy flow of momentum.
Thank you for pointing out that it wasn't just one way, because I've had the free kick count was 19 apiece, right? And you've nailed it exactly right. They were pulling free kicks out at the worst times. It was awful to watch.
I mean, I'll have to rewatch, but yeah, both teams got given goals at stupid times that would swing the bar backwards and forwards in favor of them. All right, besides that, the effort from both teams was amazing. Blake Acres, wow.
Take a bow, son.
Those defensive efforts, game-saving. Absolutely game-saving.
The fingertips of a god.
Ben Mackay. Not Ben Mackay, Harry. Jesus.
Big H.
Poor bastard.
Jesus.
Poor bastard. All I can say about him. He let the atmosphere get to him, I think. Yeah, it's kind of on you guys as well, to be honest. Needed to back your boy a little bit more.
Oh, he you know what's funny is we backed him early, and I think he needed that early one that went straight into the post. He needed that desperately. If he got that, I reckon he would have been up and about. And as soon as he starts to get up and about, the movement he creates around the ground, once he gets into his head, I reckon he becomes a bit stagnant and a bit worried to do things because he thinks he's going to fuck up.
He's a major confidence player, yeah, for sure.
Massively a confidence player. I mean, the big one for me as well is I don't want to blame one player, but I think he actually helped Sydney put the momentum back in their favor. Third.
If he slots either of those, it's game, done, dusted.
Well, the one for me was the start of the third, the one where he kicks it straight through the points from 10 meters out, is he had every opportunity to really put the nail in the coffin. I reckon if he gets that, we roll on the momentum. I reckon that's foot on the throat and we stomp him. But, let him back into the game. And then we just that was a massive scare for the boys. But you can only do what you can do. And I think they did what they could beautifully. And they played the last few minutes quite well. So all their defensive acts and also... So the thing that was really... Even watching that last play where they get that late goal, it's still one of those ones where you go, they still defended quite well. Yeah. It was down to more so luck. It came through Martin's legs. That was purely it. If it doesn't go through his legs, he stops the ball, potentially just a inside 50 stoppage, and the game's done and dusted probably a little bit sooner. But some big Swans performances in this game as well. So Errol was phenomenal as usual. McDonald, some big scores in the third quarter for McDonald. Brayshaw put it perfectly on commentary right before our eyes, because he was becoming a man right before everyone's eyes. The Amati party was, I tell you what, he looked lively. He kicked 1 goal too, but then subbed out tactically as well. So make what you will of that. Parker going forward was a bit of a masterstroke. But then it was just down to all these Swans misses. So
yeah,
there was
it's the theme. It's the theme of the series. It's the misses.
so Melbourne Thursday night, Swans on Friday night. So
Saints.
9 goals, 14 killed them. It was absolutely awful to watch. If you were watching it from a Swans perspective, awful viewing in that aspect where you just every opportunity that you had just was lost to a point. So
and they were gettable as well. A lot of those were gettable.
a lot of them, and a lot of them would have been momentum swingers as well. So yeah, that was just the nature of the game, and bad kicking is bad footy, and it unfortunately cost them a final.
I don't think I've asked you, how did you feel walking away from that one? Did you feel like you'd been in a battle, or did you feel confident that you'd get it done?
Walking away, I think I was just more I think there was too much elation more than anything else, just more surviving. It felt probably more like a survival in the end, but also felt like it didn't feel like we coughed up the game. It felt like, it's finals football. Swans turned up to play in the second half and, really gave it to the boys. And they did a lot right, the Carlton boys. And I think it's just down to finals nerves, in all honesty. And I think this needed to happen. Getting a finals win, perfect. Big tick. Realistically, everyone's called it now. Carlton has a free swing at Melbourne Football Club because nobody expected them to even get over Sydney. Like, not a lot of people did. There was a lot of doubters this week. We were the favourites, but there was a lot of doubters, and I know that's probably a lot of wishful thinking from people. But yeah, they got over the line, and like I said, was just a really good night out at the footy. And yeah, I guess the best way to put it is I felt good. I felt good that they finally got a finals win. And big shout out to Paddy Cripps, 180 games before playing a final. I mean, you also had Wiedering and Doherty, who also played 150 games plus for the club without a final. So good to see those boys out there, and good to see players like your Cheras, your Walshes play really well. And enough Carlton gloating, but I am going to get it out of the way this week because I feel like we're going to get stomped next week.
Outside of Shearer was, probably another one of the difference makers in the game. It was everywhere.
Thank you, Dockers.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for Amos.
Did you get Amos off us?
Yeah, for Shearer.
There you go. There you go. We win on that one, actually. I you know me, I rate the fuck out of Amos. But
I do. All right. So the Giants, the big sound.
The big sound. So we'll move on to Saturday football with a big sound coming out of the MCG. So 11-11-77 played 15-11-101. GWS by 24 points, just way too strong for the St Kilda Football Club.
JD, do you hear that?
Oh.
Do you hear that?
Oh,
that is the sound of Ross Lyon not being a premiership coach.
Oh, well, shit damn. Last time I checked, Ross Lyon, still not a premiership coach. You're not wrong there, mate. Just absolutely beautiful to see, if you ask me. Another year where we get to keep saying it. Imagine if he had somehow got himself to a grand final. But Nate did point out he's a second-year specialist at clubs. Got you to a grand final in the second year. Got Saints to a prelim in the second year. So,
is that when he shits the bed afterwards? So he's going to get to the grand final, get out-coached, lose, and then just everything goes to shit?
Ross Lyon, a roast on the way out, as we absolutely love to do to the poor man. It's funny because to me there's two Ross Lyons. There's media Ross Lyon, which I really like, and then there's Coach Ross Lyon, who I just really don't care about. And we all know who's back in the box seat, and none of us like it. None of us like him. But yeah, Greater Western Sydney. Did you know an interesting fact? They have never lost in week 1 of finals.
Wow.
Yep. So this is their sixth final appearance, and they have never lost in week 1 of finals. So always find themselves in week 2, no matter what, or through to a prelim. So, Giants are becoming September specialists. But as I said to you, was saying to you a little bit before, I am feeling vindicated, my friend. I have said all year that this club's top end talent will carry them through, and I called them. I called on them early on. I called them lazy. This is when they were having that rough period at the start of the year, because those guys were what was letting down the club. It was they were lazy. They weren't running hard enough. They weren't tackling hard enough. And look at what happens when they play well. You got some guys in their career best forms. You got Caniglio, who didn't play on Saturday, but Caniglio to come back in likely, who's in career best form. People like Whitfield, who just have found a way to get his game to another level. So he played his first full game out of defense for a while this game. So, and Ross's grand plan for stopping Whitfield, Cooper Sharman. So, which I know you got to give the kid, and that's the thing. I actually do admire that, to give a kid a job like that, but Lockie Whitfield still had a very, very dominant performance. And
what was Wilkie doing?
Wilkie had the job on Toby Green.
Huh. Yeah, fair.
And he played it horribly. But we'll get into that as well, because I think that's what a couple of those moves were awful, and just it did cost the team on the day. That was one of them. Wilkie on Green did not work. But the Giants, this was all down to their run and carry off of halfback. They've been doing it for the last 10 weeks. They just move the ball like no other. It used to be called the Orange Tsunami, and it's been called that it's back. They move the ball so quickly, and it stops clubs from being able to. It basically creates chaos ball and stops clubs from being able to defend. So Whitfield and Kelly both dominant performances. So 31 disposals and 7 inside 50s for Whitfield, and Kelly 27 disposals and 2 goals as well. So this is what I'm saying. Some of their top end talent, Tom Green.
What a beast.
The beast himself, 36 disposals and 9 inside 50s. He was massive in this final. It was just really hard for St Kilda to combat some of these giant stars. Lockie Ash, a star-making performance. He's already a star in a lot of people's books, but this just took him to another level. So 31 disposals and 10 rebounds. And then you've got Mini Mumford in Kieran Briggs, who just led the way in the middle. So, and they've been crying out for that, their own homegrown ruckman. Kieran Briggs with 28 hitouts and 8 clearances. He was massive against Rowan Marshall. But we'll get into this St Kilda Football Club, who just, they were spirited, but couldn't get fire a shot on the day.
Well, who was the standout for them?
It's still their typicals. So Rowan Marshall, Jack Steele, 31 disposals and 38, 31 for Marshall, 38 for Jack Steele. Hill was prolific again, used his speed as usual. And Sinclair, Wanganeen Malira, some of their usual suspects who have been playing well over the last 10 weeks. But it was just a lot of their lower end talent who just couldn't really get themselves over the line, and just couldn't really couldn't really fire a shot in this final. But unfortunately for Saints fans, that means that you are out, and that means you can tell your story walking.
Oh, well, they got a consolation prize.
What's that, my friend?
Liam Henry.
They do have Liam Henry potentially coming to the club. And you know what's funny? I reckon you called it perfectly without even realizing. You said he would go to Carlton, right? Not realizing that the person who bid on him was Silvani. So that was Stephen Silvani, the list coach, right? I was managing the list. Guess whose list he's managing now?
Saints.
The St Kilda Football Club. So you nailed it in a way, because yes, he will be going to the person who bid on him at the Carlton Football Club. It's Stephen Silvani at St Kilda, which he's potentially going to pull the coup off. I can see why you thought it might be Carlton after our last few years of dogging you a little bit. I apologise. One thing I will say about St Kilda is that I do think that their bottom end talent is actually quite good. I do think they've got a lot to play with. Like Ross has got a lot of things to play with in terms of young talent. He's got Wangini Malira, players like Owens. Who else has he got? King's still relatively young. Stocker. He's got Caminiti. He's got a lot of the young talent that he can still play around with, but they really need to hit the trade period. Really need to hit the draft and try and get some more top end talent in if they're going to be real contenders in September.
I wonder how well he actually develops talent, because he only had our young boys for a couple of years. So
I would argue that he actually does develop some talent some of that young talent quite well, because you got to look, he is also the guy who got the best out of the best way to look at it. He gets the best out of a lot of players. That's one thing. But that is Ross's strength. Is you saw it perfect. Is he got the best out of some players that, sometimes maybe not even worthy at being an AFL level, but he finds a way to get them there.
Yeah, look at our side that he took to a grand final. Some of those were just absolute lemons.
I reckon, he's going to be able to develop some of this young talent quite nicely. They're also already on their way to being top tier talent. Like, your Machito Owens is going to be an absolute star sort of thing. So, still a lot to play with, still a lot to do with the list. They've got a lot to look at in the off season. Let's say that.
I just feel like they need some like the middle of the range players. Like some like 23 to 25 range to help while the young players grow.
Would agree with that, absolutely.
I barely even talked about the Giants. I just want to give Kingsley credit. I reckon he should take Coach of the Year. He's made them a likable team. He's not won me around yet, but
I reckon he will though. He will.
Might. That you can't win a grand final before us. I will never hear the end of it over here. It's just not allowed.
But
wait your turn.
My thing would be, you can't if they win a grand final before you can't get too mad purely because at the end of the day they are AFL funded, mate.
I know, but that's not going to be good enough. The West Coast people are going to roast the shit out of us.
Yeah, it's true. We don't need that over there.
I don't need it at all.
I don't need to hear you getting roasted by West Coast fans of all people.
All right, let's freaking blow some steam up the Lions' arse now, eh?
Oh, you're not wrong there, mate. So Lions at the Gabba, mate. How scary. So 19-9, 123, played 11-9, 75, beating Port Adelaide by 48 points, mate. The Lions, like I said, at the Gabba, they're scary. And as I said to you, they're not going to have to leave there until grand final day if they keep this up.
It's going to hurt them.
It will, but then you just got to get to the mantra on grand final day, anytime, anywhere, realistically. So
I still don't think they're over that fucking. They needed that MCG win during the season to get out of that headspace. It's gonna fucking pay dividends. Come back and bite them in the ass.
The only thing that could potentially work in their favor, and we've discussed this before, especially a few weeks ago. They own Collingwood, mate, and we know this. Like,
really?
they have a record like no tomorrow against Collingwood. So Collingwood's one big hoodoo side, I reckon, is Brisbane, like in the finals at the moment. So yeah, it's gonna make for interesting footy no matter what.
Why the hell does Nate want to verse Brisbane then?
I think he wants them to prove that they can beat them on the biggest stage. Because
with the crowd behind them as well, I reckon it would just make them go into their shells.
You're not wrong, but at the end of the day, it's also there's a lot that's got to play out before we get there first. Because
we're jumping ahead. We're jumping ahead
because at the end of the day, This was only the first of the Lions' dominant victories at the Gabba. At the Gabbatoir. The Gabbatoir. They were just absolutely dominant on Saturday night. They felt untouchable at the best of times. Port had a very good middle period there, so into the second quarter, Port Adelaide came back nicely through Nate's boy Ollie Lord. Ollie Lord. But yeah, Lord played a game to remember for himself alone. I believe he kicked 4 goals in this game. So yeah, he was looking the goods. But the big thing for Port was the yips they had early were just absolutely awful. Todd Marshall had 6 shots on goal in this game.
What?
And he kicked 2 goals, 1, 3 out in the full.
Fucking hell.
So, Todd Marshall had the yips. They had the yips all night in front of goals. So, like you sort of were saying before, there was just clubs in every single game who had the yips and couldn't get themselves over the line purely based on that. But I don't think anything was going to help Port Adelaide against the Lions. They were dominant all over the ground. So Hugh McCluggage with the game of his life, he had an absolute standout performance and also looked cooked there in the second quarter. He looked like he was done for the night, came back out and then had 8 disposals or 8 to 10 disposals for the rest of the quarter. So just shows the type of player that he is. So 26 disposals. He was phenomenal. Dunkley, Wilmot, Neil, just their usual suspects who contributed.
What about boy Rayner?
Oh, Rayner was great. Yeah, to me, I'm just going to say, I think it was a real team performance from the Lions. There was no passengers on the night. They were just solid across the board, is the best way to put it. Whereas it felt like there was a lot of passengers at on the Port Adelaide side. Just a lot of people who couldn't fire a shot. Finlayson, who's had a very, very good season, only the 6 disposals, no goals. So that says a lot about this team and the night they sort of had. It was just a dog night for their forward line, and just unlucky in terms of. I mean, you said you missed this game, so I'm going to tell you a tale of the most unlucky thing I think that I've seen happen this season. So Darcy Byrne-Jones was going to be subbed out of this game.
I was watching the Kayo little
Here you go, yeah. So it was going to be subbed out of this game. So paperwork had been lodged, which means that's sub done. You can't change it once the paperwork's been lodged. 45 seconds after that paperwork had been lodged, Dylan Williams comes to the bench with a calf complaint, and he's done his calf. And then not even a minute later, Trent McKenzie comes to the bench after rolling his ankle. So they had a dog, 3 minutes there where just everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. And, they were severely injured late in that third quarter. So, yeah, they had probably the worst luck I've seen in this 2023 season. But, yeah, it was just one of the more unlucky things to happen, but also, the Lions way too strong in this one. So, like I was saying, the Lions probably not going to have to leave the Gabbatoir until grand final day, and now Melbourne or Carlton have to go through the Lions to get there, and the Lions at the Lions Den. You're not wrong. It was a dominant performance by the Lions. Not too much to say on this one. I think Port might have gone a little bit too early on signing Kenny Boy. And I think I got sucked into their game style early on, thinking it could win a flag, but they're looking worse than ever at the moment. They're looking like straight sets for sure.
To be honest, I'm kind of happy. That means that we might, if JL shits the bed, you can bet fucking old mate Schofield is getting a call.
Well. Yeah, there's probably a lot to play out at the Port Adelaide Football Club over the next few years. But yeah, could have, like I said, probably jumped the gun a little bit too early. So I'm not. I like I said, not too much more to go into this game. Port need to reload big time next week. Charlie Dixon potentially come back into their side. So yeah, I just don't know where to fix Port at this point.
They need him. Charlie, I think that's going to be a big difference maker, to be honest.
Yeah, but even in this one, just he wouldn't have been a 48-point difference. You know what I mean?
He's not going to be the difference, but he helps them to a degree.
He does. He helps their structure for sure.
Yeah.
But then they've got the decision of, do we play Lord? I personally think after Marshall's performance, that's where you should be looking for the drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot to play out at Port Adelaide over the next week, and like I said, they need to reload while the Lions get to have a week off, and staring down the barrel of a grand final, which they've desperately needed for years, if you ask me.
So are we doing predictions?
All right, yeah, I was just going to say, so random little segment that I've come up with for finals, so I got to make a fucking template for it.
At least do something! Do! Don't think, Nick! Don't hope! Do!
What we have as of next week is the 2 games. So we've got Carlton versus Melbourne on Friday night at the MCG. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, you guys. I've gone for both the Melbourne and Port being out in straight sets.
I'm gonna try and hold a little bit of confidence in the boys, and gonna say we are gonna somehow push Melbourne out of the finals, and I think it's purely going to be down to their forward line structure. Melbourne. Moving on to the Saturday game, so we got Port versus Giants. You've already said that you're going to be going for the Giants in this one. I would also tend to agree. I think there's too many problems that Port showed. I think the Giants are in absolute ripper form at the moment. So this one, that was taking place at Adelaide Oval. I think a lot of people have been would doubt clubs to go to Adelaide Oval and win, but the Giants, 11, they've won at 11 stadiums. The MCG was another stadium added to the list. So it's wild, mate. So they've already won at Adelaide Oval this year against Adelaide. So yeah, anytime, anywhere for the Giants at this point. So I think they're going to roll on. I think they're going to be the ones playing Collingwood. But as I said, it's going to be an interesting the week after as well. So can't wait. Hopefully I get some tickets to Friday night as well and see how we go.
I just feel like each of the teams are going to batter the shit out of each other on the way to the next game.
Feels like it happens every year, but it's just always how we could also see, even if they do batter the shit out of each other, it's that time of year where, you just got to reload every week. And, sometimes, and sometimes momentum as well plays a huge factor. I've always been the big believer that sometimes going the hard way could be better because you play more games.
Yeah. You don't get rusty. Yeah, I get you.
You don't get the week off, you could, and you get a bit more time to tinker with things. So Melbourne are going to have, if Melbourne can get through, they've got another week to tinker with their forward line structure, which they like I said, they desperately need to get right if they're going to win the grand final. So, it's just a massive week of finals again. Massive week for me. We got to do like revisions. We got to go back. So I think the last thing we had done was All Out.
Really?
I didn't even know if we had covered All Out. But basically, win against Kenny Omega at All Out in a 3-way. Win against Kenny Omega at All In a 3-way. In a one-on-one match. And looking like he's going to get the push of a lifetime.
Oh, they've strapped a rocket to him.
I mean, you know who strapped the rocket to him first, mate?
Who?
Us boys.
Oh, yeah, true.
we were talking about this, me and Nate, and what a boy to have picked. Like, the boy who has got the rocket strapped to him and got 2 wins over Kenny Omega in a week.
I reckon we expected it to happen, but not as quick as it did.
I don't think either. Like, Nathan, I think, said he shit bricks when he saw that he beat Kenny at All In. I shit bricks. No way I expected him to beat Kenny Omega, but Takeshita's only gone and done it. Well, I fully expected Kenny to beat him. It just did not feel like. I felt like it was the blow off was Kenny beating Takeshita. And Takeshita just like going back down the card a little bit, but no, we're sticking with him, mate.
Future
But,
star. Star in the making.
Star in the making. But that's our back revision, and that is Takesh to watch. Keep an eye out. We'll be excited for the boy's year to come.
We're picking a new boy next year, I reckon.
That's what I said to Nate. I was like, let's pick a new boy, and then we'll see if we can strap a rocket to him as well.
Get him over.
That's it. But not too much to talk about in this one. We'll wrap it up there. So we are the AWO Journeymen. Like, share, subscribe, all the good shit. We're available on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. And please drink more water.
Yeah, Pasito.